right, hello, and welcome back to yet another amazing episode of the Adventures in Advising podcast. This is Matt Markin, and by the time you're listening to this episode, we are well into October. Ryan Shuckle, what's new?
I'm trying to decide where to put my spooky time robots as we hit October. I've got so many little trinkets and toys that I'm like, oh, I have a theme going, pumpkin spice R2D2s and stuff. So, but yeah, I love the fall for sure. Everything that it means for campuses and for academic advising, the annual conference and that time of year is always a fun, energy-filled time for sure.
Yeah, and speaking of annual conference, I know both of us will be there, and our guest for today, I think, will also be at annual conference. So let's welcome to the podcast, and that is Jordan Truex. Jordan is the Senior Academic Advisor for Chemistry and Biochemistry Department at Utah State University. Born and raised in Logan, Utah, she is an alumna of USU, having earned a BS in History with a minor in Chemistry, a BS in Business Administration, an MBA, and a Master's in Education in Instructional Leadership with an emphasis in higher education and student affairs. In addition to her role as an academic advisor, Jordan heads the Chemistry and Biochemistry Undergraduate Student Association, which is also nationally recognized and award-winning, and also the Utah State BioHive Club, connecting students to industry professionals in the state of Utah. Jordan actively contributes to the advising profession and has presented her research and best practices at university, state, regional, and also global advising conferences. She currently serves on the NACADA Region 10 leadership as the communications coordinator, serving advisors from Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, and as a member of the NACADA Sustainable Leadership Committee. When she isn't advising, Jordan teaches classes at USU on student skill or study skills, actually, and learning techniques, teaching elementary school orchestra, edits books for USA Today and Amazon bestselling authors, and spends time with her family and friends. And if that wasn't enough, Jordan is currently pursuing her PhD in counseling and student development with an emphasis in leadership and academic advising at Kansas State University. Jordan, my friend, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Matt. So excited to be here.
Yeah, and I know this has kind of been in the works for a while. I know at the annual conference last year in Pittsburgh, we kind of planted the seed of, hey, at some point we need to have you on the podcast. And from your bio, I know we're going to have plenty of things to talk about. I know Ryan and I usually ask the first question to tell us more about your journey in higher ed, which I think we will get to. But I feel one of the things I didn't know about you, and I thought I knew a lot about you, was that you edit books for USA Today and Amazon bestselling authors. So I think that needs to be the first question to please tell us more about that.
Yeah, I edit books for authors. It's super awesome. Typically, I'm like the last set of eyes or one of the last set of eyes on books before they're published. A lot of the authors I work with are self-published. A few of them have recently started getting traditionally published, which is really exciting. And it's super fun. I love to read. I'm a bit of a speed reader. And so being able to get to read books early and get to help authors release something that can be really impactful for people, especially for me, is just something really exciting.
So I know Ryan reads a lot too.
Well, the first thing I thought was like, how do you get into doing something like that?
Well, funny stories. So when I say I read a lot, during COVID, I think I read close to 4,000 books. I have the exact number. It's like 4,178 books in 2020 to 2021. And yes, that's an average of about 12 books a day. Some are not like huge books, right? Like they were just things on Kindle Unlimited. But during that process, and because of COVID, the indie author scene really blew up with Kindle Unlimited. And I would read a story and I'd really love it. And I'd see errors and I'd be like, I know it's going to be weird, but like if I were an author, I would want to know that that was an issue. And so I just started like joining fan groups and would email or reach out to the author via Facebook or Instagram and be like, hey, I just read your book. I loved it. I noticed this, and this. I thought you just would want to know. And after doing that a few times with one particular author, they were redoing a series and they were like, hey, I'm going to recover this series and reformat it. Would you be willing to go through it and, make sure that there's no errors before we're republishing it? It was 7 books, and I went through and I found over 50 errors in almost every book. And the author was like, I've had this looked at by professional editors like multiple times before. Would you be interested in working for me? And it was definitely nothing I was looking for. It was just kind of a thing. And then word of mouth kind of spread. And now I work for about, I think I'm at 16 authors right now.
That is amazing. I think listeners will be like, oh, I want to try to get into that too.
Yeah, well, I thought I was doing good when I set a goal of a book a week for a year. But I know that comparison is a thief of joy, so let's not get into that. But what I hear is obviously a curious mind and a helpful heart. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey in higher education and into academic advising?
Yeah, so I am a first generation student from here in Logan, Utah, which is where Utah State University is. And education is something that was always something I loved. I started attending Utah State. I was double majoring in music and chemistry. I wanted to be a doctor. I highly recommend not doing those two majors together. But I started being a chemistry major. And during my time, I had an academic advisor who wasn't really an advisor. She was the staff assistant for the chemistry department and kind of was just the person who advised on the side. And I ended up having some severe medical issues come up and got really sick. I ended up in the hospital for a period of time and I failed my classes. And I remember going to her and the response was, well, just retake it. Like, you're fine. You're in 17 credits. You need this, just retake it next semester. And I failed again. It was really hard for me for a long time. My dad lost his job during that time with the recession in 2008. And then my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And through all this, I was working 3 jobs while going to school, while also dealing with like these medical issues. And so I was going through a lot and made the choice I was substitute teaching at the time, kind of made the choice to switch my major to help me be able to go to school in the evenings instead of during the daytime. So I switched my major to history. And at that point, I met with a professor who looked at me and said, Jordan, you are not a failure. He said, you've experienced some failure and you're going through some really hard things, but don't you think that you're a failure? We're going to move past this and you're going to do great things in your life. And that was the first moment that I was like, I'm not a failure, right? And he guided me to the academic advisor for the history department, who was wonderful and completely changed what my experience was the first 3 years of my college experience. And so I got the opportunity I got hired on at Utah State at their Salt Lake campus. And within a year, moved into an advising position. And that opportunity really changed. Like, I can have the impact that my second advisor had on me with other students, and I can help them navigate it, help them know the policies so that when things happen, they can be successful. That's just driven everything I've done since then.
Yeah, so you're able to really kind of take your experience of what happened as a student and kind of these advisors and mentors, in a sense, that have given you those positive tips and memorable kind of quotes that you can now bring into with your students. Do you also feel, having earned like multiple degrees in various areas from like history and business and chemistry and education, that also kind of helps shape how you are as an advisor?
Absolutely. My educational path, like, I never expected to go on for a graduate degree. And I barely graduated with my history degree. Like, my GPA was really low because of all the things I had gone through. And I think one of the things that has contributed with my advising is not only some real genuine empathy for certain situations that students have gone through, but also a greater understanding of the broad impact that different educational programs have on their students and how they can work together. Like they're very different. Like chemistry is very different from music or from business or from education, but there's a lot of things that are very similar. And so being able to carry that through the various roles I've held has been really helpful in my position for sure.
Well, part of me wants to ask, like, what did you like the best? There's so many disciplines, and there are times when folks spend all their time in one. And so I didn't know. I imagine what the likely answer is about. There's things about each of them, but I'm curious if there was anything in particular that you really look back on as far as an academic home that was something that really resonated with you, or maybe surprised you in your journey as a student, let's say.
Yeah, my business journey was something that I never expected. I remember being when I was first getting my bachelor's degree, and like being like, oh, the business people are just business people, like, and just having this, like, I didn't have an understanding of really what business people were learning, what they were doing. And because I was living in Salt Lake, there were certain classes and programs that were offered at that campus, and business was one of them. And I was also working as a dietetic internship coordinator, and I was managing contracts for the program and requirements with hospitals and school districts and that. And I just remember starting to take classes because I was thinking about a master's degree, but my GPA was too low. So I was taking some classes just to kind of help me be a good candidate for a master's program. And I fell in love with those classes. And I could take them back, and every single day and everything I was doing, I was like finding things that were relatable. And that really shocked me in a lot of ways. And it's helped me, I think, be a better advisor because of the things I learned and adapted, and being able to like understand that sometimes there's things that you learn that you don't think are relevant. And then you learn them, and then you're like, oh, I can apply this in my job every day if I want to. I just have to do it. So that was the one thing that surprised me the most.
Yeah, sometimes the things that you learn, it's like years later that it's like, oh yeah, that thing I learned 5 years ago, and I can actually apply it now in what I do. Now, one of the other things for your responsibilities, which I'm not sure if it's like other duties assigned or it's part of your role, is that you oversee the Chemistry and Biochemistry Undergraduate Student Association, as well as the Utah State BioHive Club. Mm-hmm. So I think we're interested to kind of learn more about those organizations and also kind of your role in that.
Yeah. So when I started advising, so I told you about my chemistry journey and that I didn't have a real advisor. I'm actually the first advisor. When she retired, they hired a primary role advisor in the position. And so I was hired for the department, and the chemistry club at the time is what we called it. They had been inactive for about 6 years. And when meeting with students, there were a couple things that came out of those meetings. And one of them was, we want to build a community, but we can't, like, we don't know where to find that. And so I worked with my department in re-establishing a club that felt more inclusive of our entire department, because we're chemistry and biochemistry. So instead of just being the chem club, which really does encompass those things, we turned it into the Chemistry and Biochemistry Undergraduate Student Association, still having our affiliation with the American Chemical Society. And that club, they do some of the most amazing things. They have gone out to dozens of elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools in our valley and shared their love of science with kids, and really kind of showing what higher ed can do for these little kids, and the exciting things that they could potentially do as they, explore different majors. And so they do that. And this last year, So I started that club 2 years ago, and after their first year, they won a commendable award with the American Chemical Society for their efforts in their community and their outreach. So these students are amazing. They're doing wonderful things, and it's just really great to be part of that.
Yeah, we in our office here identified early on the value of advisor engagement with student organizations.
Mhm.
But you also teach in the classroom, and I'm curious, like, what's your experience been like in those two roles, in the classroom as an instructor, and then in the advising dynamic too?
Yeah, so the courses I teach two specific classes right now. One we call Connections here, and it's our intro to college course that we encourage all our freshmen or new students to take, and really is integrating them into the college experience here at Utah State University. The second class I teach is for our Center for Academic Belonging and Learning Success, and that class is called Learning Techniques, and I'm really helping students through study habits and skills and those types of things. So it really is very relatable to advising, because I have these conversations with my students often too. Like, I don't know how to study for this exam. Well, let me give you some tips. Now I'm in the classroom giving these tips and going through activities with the students that are applicable to help them find success at wherever they are in their journey, most of the time in the early years, but trying to help them develop these habits that will help them be successful college students.
How are students added into that class? Is it something that is just kind of recommended and they add in? Is something that they're like pre-enrolled in?
So I think there's two different ways. One is that it can be recommended or they find it. The other way is, I know that we have like a bridge program for students who either did not meet admission standards or are returning from suspension, and they are required to take these courses as part of their contract to be able to be admitted back into good standing at the institution. So there's kind of the two dynamics of students that are wanting to learn that, and students that are being pushed to learn it to help them be successful.
Yeah. So okay. So you have like a mixture of students in there. How do you help students like understand like the importance that there is like that difference of different types of studying and study techniques and habits, and you need that for different classes. There's a difference from high school to college on actually studying and preparing for your classes.
I think the practice of it, early in the course, we're week 3 right now. We're talking about creating a schedule and then reflecting on it. So a lot of every week, the students will do a beginning of the week reflection and an end of week reflection, and they'll kind of set goals. So goal setting is a big portion of this. Set goals for what they're going to do and how they're going to implement the things that they're learning that week. And then they reflect on it. And through that process, conversations I've had, this is my 3rd time teaching the class, conversations I've had with the students is, I've learned that I need to like change what time of the day I'm studying because it's not working for me. I'm always too tired. Or I need to reflect on my work hours. Do I need to have a conversation with my boss? Or I'm realizing that taking a 7:30 in the morning class was not a good choice. So it's really kind of helping them come to that realization on their own through planning and reflection.
Yeah, we we could talk for so long about the changing of mindsets about the world and them and students themselves, how powerful that can be. But you are also teaching in another setting, and I'm just curious about your experience with orchestra and elementary school students. I'm curious, do you have an instrument yourself, and tell us more about that.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I was double majoring in music and chemistry when I first started. I was a viola performance major. So I'm a string player. I play both the violin and viola primarily. This is my 19th year of teaching elementary school orchestra. I started when I was a freshman. So that was kind of the job that I moved into when I started college. They're like, oh, you can't do anything else, but you could go teach orchestra a couple hours a day. And I'm still doing it. I teach 4th through 6th graders, violin, viola, cello, bass. This year I'll have close to 80 students. And so, yeah.
So what parallels do you see between the string instruments and being in higher education? Are there any similarities, translatable concepts or skills for somebody who spent so much time, considering the instrument and also teaching the instrument? I'm kind of curious if you find any connection between that arts and creative side and the educator side.
Absolutely. I've been doing it so long, it's like it's hard to reflect back on it. For me, expression of yourself, storytelling. When I'm actually a bit of an introvert, you might not realize that when you meet me, because when I'm in work, I kind of put on my I have to talk to people hat. But when I was younger, I was bullied a lot and felt really insecure. And music was my way to express myself and to find kind of that belonging with the world. And so translating that to being an academic advisor is that everyone has different ways of how they express themselves. And some of them are quieter than others. And sometimes you just need something to get outside your head that is not school or not work. You need something that will bring you joy. For me, I found a lot of joy in reading. That's kind of what gets me out of my head a lot, but also being able to turn to my instrument and find that kind of ability to express myself has been really helpful, not only just throughout my childhood, but also in adulthood as well.
Yeah, so talk about the reading. Now we know about the music. And again, finding out more things about you. Then I was like, I've known Jordan for a few years. I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I do want to go back to the student orgs, because you were talking about the biochemistry undergraduate student association. Did that also encompass the BioHive Club?
Yeah. So the BioHive Club is actually we kind of had it 2-3 years ago. Went on a field trip to some companies in Salt Lake City. There are biotechnology companies. Utah has one of the largest and fastest growing biotech industries in the world. And so right now, it's just a really good place for students interested in the sciences to get involved in industry. It kind of didn't exist last year. And then this year, we're ramping it back up. I have a great president who is helping get it going. And we have some tours, again, going to Salt Lake City, really trying to help students see what the possibilities are with their majors. I think often I have students, and this was kind of the same with me, where it's like, I want to go to medical school. So I'm going to choose this major because I've heard it's a great one for medical school. And then they realize that that's not what they want to do anymore. And they feel a little bit lost. And when I felt that way, it was like, oh, well, I need to switch my major. It was like, I don't want to work on a lab bench. And now we're trying to connect them to these alumni and these opportunities that help them to understand what the possibilities are, to give them ideas of, okay, if this doesn't work out, or maybe I want to do this instead.
Speaking of alumni, you have a somewhat unique experience too. Not everyone advises at their alma mater and in their hometown. And I feel like I've been here in Lubbock at Texas Tech University long enough to say this is home, but it's not the home I've known forever. And I'm curious, if you reflect on that, how has that influenced your approach in advising? Especially, I'm curious about your relationship with your institution, having seen it from so many sides.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I did not want to come to Utah State because I grew up here. I had great ambitions. I actually wanted to go to Penn State and got into an accelerated medical school program there, but the cost of tuition was so much in my family. As I mentioned before, like financially grew up in kind of a very low income home. So we didn't have the ability, my parents wouldn't be able to help me. So I was depending on scholarships, and I got a scholarship. It just was not enough to cover all of Penn State's tuition. And really thought, my dad and I had a conversation about, well, you should look at Utah State. Utah State is a good school. And no, it's not getting away from home, but you can move out. You can move out and go live on campus. And I had a wonderful experience, and I'm really grateful I came here. Utah State's campus is very homey. Like it just has that good, Logan has that good college town vibe where it's not too big, not too small. And I can walk from one end of campus to the other in like 15 minutes. So it's easy to navigate. I'm really glad I chose to come here. I had a fabulous education experience for the most part. Loved my professors, felt like I got the best education I could have. And moving into advising, I really care about the students. I care about Utah State. I care about the experience the students are having. And I want them to have an experience that they can look back on and say, I'm really glad I chose to go to Utah State. I'm really glad I chose to go to Logan and take a chance on this institution that may not be a big name, may not be the most, popular institution you hear in the world, but has really great professors and a really amazing educational experience.
I feel like both of us have very similar kind of stories with that, because when I was a senior in high school, I applied to Cal State San Bernardino, but I really wanted to go to Humboldt State, which is now Cal State Humboldt, up north. And then they just wanted to give me loans, but Cal State San Bernardino was like, here's some grants. And I was like, okay, well, I guess the choice is made. I'm from a low income family. I don't want to pay back loans, so I'm going to go here. And it ended up being one of the greatest experiences. So very similar. And I'm glad it worked out that way. I think from this interview and knowing you, like, you're always, I think when, you have the caring for your students, you're always wanting them to also further develop. That's also something you do as well, because something else that is on your plate is you're pursuing a PhD program. So you're doing the one for counseling and student development, the emphasis in leadership and academic advising at K-State. I was hoping you can share with us, like, what was your decision to pursue that specific one, and how is it going so far?
Yeah. First of all, the Kansas State program is amazing. 100% highly recommend it to anyone. As I mentioned before, I never thought I would go get a graduate degree. And I was actually at the NACADA conference. I was co-chair for the Region 8, 9, 10 conference in Las Vegas, which we're going back to next month, a few years ago. And I was talking to Dr. Wendy Troxel at that conference and just having conversations a little bit. The PhD program had just started up, and she kind of just planted a seed. And then I went to Orlando the following year and was thinking of ways I can move up in my career, move into more of a leadership position, have a really big impact on academic advising. And she brought it up again. And I went to a listening session, and I just had this really good feeling that that was the way I needed to go with my educational pursuit moving forward. I actually had been testing out a PhD program here at Utah State, and it just didn't feel like the right fit. And so when I talked to Dr. Troxel, I just felt really good about it. And I applied and got in and started last summer. I'm in cohort 3. I have the most amazing colleagues in my cohort. I didn't even know what to expect. And I have friends in California and Florida and Pennsylvania and Texas, all throughout the country. And we're all going through it together. And, we talk to each other almost every day via text, and just not just about school stuff, but about what's going on at our institutions and learning from one another and supporting one another as we're doing things. And it's been a really powerful experience for me that I didn't even fully comprehend when I applied. Not only that, like the professors are phenomenal. I'm learning so much, and it is not easy. It is challenging, but we have I've never felt so supported, and that's saying something because I've had really supportive people here at Utah State, but the faculty like genuinely care, and they're there all the time to answer questions and to help make you better, and that's what I'm really happy with my experience so far.
And as you're moving through your coursework and stuff, I know being in graduate coursework and working with students, there's all kinds of time when things connect and you're like, oh, this has an application, or this is a way of viewing that theory while I'm in practice. But I also know that PhDs have a purpose. They have a target. They have a finish line of sorts that's built around your contribution to the knowledge base. Is there anything that's percolating right now as a doctoral student who's looking at the things you're looking at that you're starting to develop an interest in for further inquiry and potential writing on those things?
Yeah. So as of right now, my interest in my research for my dissertation is aligning the impact of academic advisor satisfaction, job satisfaction, with student advising appointment satisfaction, and how that may impact student retention at institutions or advisor retention at institutions. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, kind of the success of advisors and the success of students, and if there's any impact on one another.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing how this progresses. So far, so you started last summer in the program, right? How are the classes set up? Like, have you had a certain amount of classes so far? What's that look like?
So we have 2 classes a semester, so 6 credits every semester. It's 7 semesters of courses, so we'll be done with courses next summer. So summer 2026, where I also go back to Kansas. We go our first and third summer in person for a week-long meeting together. So the classes are all virtual, but a lot of the professors will have like Zoom office hours or chat times that we can connect to one another. But a lot of it is asynchronous, so we can do the coursework within the deadlines, just like any other online class.
One of the things that I know we mentioned when at the top of the interview about sharing your experiences and your findings and your practice as an advisor at conferences and stuff. I'm curious again about the continuity of thought, let's say. What were some of the things that you shared with colleagues in sort of a presentation space that you're still carrying with you, or maybe that you're thinking about differently at this stage of the game?
I've given a lot of presentations. I think we just had the Region 10 conference in May, and I gave 4 presentations on various things, but I think there is a correlation between those. One I will be giving at the annual conference is on compassion and care in academic advising and how that can elevate your experiences with your students. I've done a lot on the 7 habits of highly effective advising using Stephen Covey's experiences, looking at the impact of high achieving students and helping them through failure. And then looking at non-traditional student experiences. So there's a lot of correlation with those. And I think a lot of it is those habits, which correlates to what I teach at the institution, developing habits that help us be successful as human beings and as advisors and also as students, but also the impact that really being compassionate and being there for your students and listening to their stories and being willing to share those stories and how that impacts your interactions with your students and your relationships with your students. Because relationship buildings has probably been, if I could name one thing that makes me successful as an advisor, it's the relationships that I build with my students and with my faculty and staff that I work with, and my coworkers and my colleagues.
But I would think you would probably also have many advisors that maybe a little bit burnt out as well, whether it's a huge caseload or I want to spend time kind of developing these relationships with my students, but X, Y, and Z have all these other things that I have to do and try to balance. Do you cover some of that in maybe some of the presentations that you've done?
Yeah, definitely talk about trying to find that balance. And that's something that actually my dissertation I'm looking to find is, what is the impact of advisor burnout on their relationship with students? Like, are students seeing that in their advising appointments? And is it impacting their relationship with the institutions? I think that's really important for upper administrations to understand too, is that we've got to keep our advisors happy if we want our students to have the best experience possible, if we want them to stay. What is that going to take and why? And so that's what I'm hoping to kind of bridge with all that I've done with the studying that I'm going to be doing soon.
Well, it's not just the presentations, the contribution you're making to academic advising. You serve in leadership roles too, and I'll let Matt ask about the region experience. I'm particularly curious about the work of the Sustainable Leadership Committee. The word sustainable stands out to me given what we've just been talking about. But I'm curious, how did you get involved with the Sustainable Leadership Committee? What's the sort of the purpose and focus there, and how has that helped you in the many things that you're doing to have that additional view on the work that we're doing?
Yeah. So the Sustainable Leadership Committee, I think the mission of that committee is to really sustain NACADA leadership, to build a message that you can become involved, you can be a leader, and we need you, and trying to make that process easier for people and for all members of NACADA to know that there's a pathway for leadership for everyone, and it doesn't look the same. And there's so many opportunities for you to get involved and for you to have an impact. So a lot of the work, I served on a subcommittee that did a webinar or a online virtual meeting in June. And that was a lot of fun. Matt was one of our guests there. We had some other people who were guests sharing their experiences and giving advice on how people can get involved. We have a lot of initiatives really looking at developing courses or information that will help people through the transition into positions so that they feel like they can go out and do what they need to do with their initiatives, with their positions, those types of things.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that came out of that session, like from all the panelists, was there are direct pathways to things. There are elections, there are appointed positions, but many of the opportunities, many of us kind of just stumbled upon, or because we had already put ourselves out there in something else, it was like, oh, well, that person might be interested. Maybe you can shoulder tap, or, you just are given, not necessarily given a position, but it's like, here's an opportunity. Do you want to try it? And you can say no, but it's like, will that opportunity come about again? Maybe not. So might as well say yes and see how it goes. And maybe connected to that is, you were talking about being a conference chair for the region, for one of the region conferences, the one a few years ago back in Vegas, which ended up being a tri-region conference. So you're one of a few conference co-chairs. Can you talk about how that opportunity came about?
Yeah, I was on the region steering committee in my position that I'm still in right now, the communications coordinator. And there was hey, we need someone, anyone interested? And I was like, I am. I love conferences. NACADA conferences have really impacted my growth as an advisor. And the people I know, like I've met wonderful people, networked is really well. And so I was just really excited that the opportunity kind of was presented and I got to grab it and got to work with fabulous people, Erica and Janelle and Maria, trying to put that conference together. And we had I think we had over 800 people or close to 800 people at that conference. And I felt like it was really an amazing experience. It was awesome.
So what does the communications coordinator do for a region? How are you serving advisors across, 5 states? So much space as well. What does that look like on like a regular basis for you, the role of communications coordinator for Region 10?
So I manage our Instagram and Facebook pages for the region. I also created a LinkedIn page for the Region 10. So managing socials, putting out communications when we have them about upcoming events or things, helping institutions post jobs about opportunities within our region, and then meeting on a monthly basis with the rest of the Region 10 steering committee, talking about initiatives, upcoming things, conferences, those types of things, really helping bring that together for advisors within our region.
Quickly going back to the PhD, I know you said some of your classes are asynchronous, but some of your professors have like the office hours, and I'm sure you've taken advantage of chatting with them and learning from them. Have there been any professors that you want to shout out?
I have to shout out my major professor, Dr. Yang. She's amazing. Dr. Craig McGill has also been a fabulous mentor for me in terms of helping me learn and grow in a lot of ways and stretch. That's been really helpful. So those are the two that I'd give a shout out to.
I often think about what academic advising gives to us. The privilege we have to sit with students in those vulnerable places and situations, and to be present in those moments can very quickly become overwhelming or the dominant thought of what we get. But the community of the profession, whether it's on a campus or in a region or globally or whatever it is, and now asynchronously through these sort of interactions as well too. Is there anything that you feel like is a through line from the many places you've connected with academic advising and been fed or gotten back from it? Is there a through line that you feel really sums up so far this journey?
It goes back to building relationships and striving to find good in the world, but really networking and just building relationships. I think one of the biggest gratitude moment I can have for NACADA is that it has connected me to fabulous mentors and given me opportunities that I never expected that were possible. This last summer, I had the opportunity I received the West Hapley Scholarship to attend the Institute for Academic Advising this summer. And that was an incredible opportunity to continue networking with people in a very intensive experience, to have 1 week where we are all working on action plans for ourselves and for our institutions individually, but then the collaboration and the conversations that we're having that help each other, the feedback that we received. And I think that's one of the things that I love the most about NACADA is that it's this experience where you can learn from one another and you meet other people who can help you achieve more than what you would think as an academic advisor would be possible. And that goes back to your students and it goes back to your interactions with your institutions. And so I think the most powerful aspect of advising is building positive, strong, caring relationships with one another.
Yeah, it's so special. And as we wind down with this interview, we started with a non-work advising question, talking about editing books. Maybe we end with something else, non-work related. You also do a lot of traveling. We were talking right before we started recording about it. I've seen many of your social media posts of your travels. Talk to me about what you got, where you've been this year, what you got going on the rest of this year.
Yeah, so this year I had the amazing opportunity to go to Japan. My best friend's husband works for the Air Force, and they are currently in Okinawa. And so I went to Japan. I went for a week on my own to the mainland, and for a week had an amazing experience. I was blown away by the Japanese culture, by their infrastructure, just blew my mind. And then got to spend 2 weeks with my friend and her family in Okinawa. And I hadn't seen them for a year. So it was really nice to just take time to be with them, take some time away, not answer emails, not do anything work related, and just kind of enjoy being with them. I do love traveling, and a lot of my travels are inadvertent, like they're not planned. It just kind of happens. With me editing books, I go to a lot of like book conferences. And so this next year, I'm going to Texas and Kansas City for some signings. Those are planned. And then for Christmas, my family's going to the Caribbean on a cruise. We're really excited. We went to Mexico this last Christmas together, and it was one of the most awesome Christmas experiences. So we're going to do that again together this year.
I think if anything, if people see you at the conference, they can also ask you like, hey, can you be my travel agent?
I need another job. Why not?
Just add it to the list.
Just add it to the list.
Well, Jordan, this was a very fun interview. Got to learn more about you, and yeah, just everything that you're doing. I hope, with these travels as well, you're able to relax and kind of have your own wellness away from work. But Jordan, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jordan.